What do most Fortune 500 executives have in common? They learned important lessons on the fields and courts of their high school and collegiate sports teams. This is true for both men and women. Ernst & Young found that a whopping 94% of women holding a C-suite position played sports. Their wins and losses shaped their habits and who they would become. Join me on my journey to sit with some of the brightest executives in the world as we discuss how sports shape their professional trajectory. In partnership with Chief Executive Magazine, the voice of America's CEO community. I'm your host, Don Yeager, and this is Corporate Competitor Podcast. With me for today's episode is Jake Farrant, the president and founder of Mammoth Sports Construction, a full-service design-build firm that started as a one-man crew in 2008 and has exploded into one of America's fastest-growing companies, delivering sports construction projects, the NFL, the SEC, Big 12, and hundreds of high schools around the country. Mammoth believes in the power of sports to transform lives and communities. So Jake, a former athlete and coach, is perfect for today's episode.
Hey, you want an opportunity of a lifetime? I'm going to go down to the Superdome and pull this field up. I called every truck driver in Jefferson County here in Kansas. I think it was over 35 semi trucks. So we pulled through the tunnel and it was unbelievable, Don. I guess we did what any 6 guys from Meriden, Kansas would do is we busted out a football. We immediately started playing football.
Jake, thanks for joining us.
Don, I'm so appreciative of you inviting me on this. I really appreciate it.
You maybe have the coolest logo of anybody we've ever had on the podcast. I loved over the last few months getting to know you and the company and what you guys stand for. I love that you've kept the company right there in Meriden, Kansas, where you're from. Population 813, maybe on a good day. But I want to go back to the beginning. When was the first time young Jake picks up a ball and starts to realize how important sports is going to be to you?
Yeah, Don. So I remember being super young, waiting at the door every day for my dad to get home from work. Whatever ball I had, whatever season it was, whatever he was into at that point in time, that's the ball I usually had. If it was summer, it was a baseball. If it was fall, it was a football. And winter, it was a basketball. And couldn't wait for the next Kansas Jayhawk game to watch that with my dad. That's just the way we grew up. Ball in the hand, didn't matter which one, and just a love from the sports from day one, Don.
Wow, I like that.
Reading some of your books, Don, I'm going to guess you're not a big fan of all the kids getting trophies on Saturdays, whether you win or lose.
Participation awards weren't my thing. Yeah.
I could tell by the way you write your books. I don't want to date myself, but you go back to the old times. I'm growing up in sports.
The Mammoth days.
There was no participation trophies. I mean, come on. And you know what? You got cut.
Oh, yeah.
Think about some of the great stories that you know. There's a lot of great players that were cut.
Right.
And I had to practice, Don. I had to do 110 layups after school because there was 12 other boys in my class, even though it's a tiny town, that were at home doing the same thing with their dad. That competitive spirit was a survival mode because you weren't going to make the team. So I think about what sport is and what it teaches young kids. I really gravitate towards football. The way you play that game is a direct reflection of what your inner soul is, what your beginnings were, and how you were taught to be a man. I don't think that is who you have to be. I think that's why you bring in coaching. You can take a kid who is a quitter and who is down on himself and who doesn't finish, coach them to be better. And then all of a sudden you turn around, you see that they're better in the classroom. You see that they're maybe a better boyfriend. I love what sports can do. And as far as transforming individuals, unless you worked hard, unless you were giving it your all, you were just going to be on the sideline. You just get cut. You probably can guess what my kids do after school, right?
That's right. 110 layups to do. Get on it.
Yeah.
So I love that you mentioned playing football because you went on to play quarterback at Jefferson West High School.
Yeah.
And then you went on to Ottawa University. Now, you say that a school's athletic fields are its biggest classroom. It is the place where so much learning occurs, and it ties directly to what your company does. Tell me about a time where that classroom taught you a great lesson?
I was on a recruiting visit to Ottawa, and Ottawa was the last place I wanted to go to school. I had 4 or 5 other schools that I thought were where I wanted to go. But I went as a favor to a family friend. He said, "You got to check this place out." And I remember it was coming down to the end of the game, and Ottawa University had this young All American. He was a safety. His name was Roy Solis. The other team was about ready to take the lead, 15 seconds left. And he made a play. Roy intercepted the pass and won the game. I'm sitting in the stands, I'm cheering, and I'm watching the coach, Chris Creighton, very successful at a Division I school.
Right.
And I remember Roy slowly walked up to his coach, Chris Creighton, took his headset off, raised his head up, and he grabbed Roy's face mask and kind of looked him in the eye. And then the two embraced, and you just felt it. They had a relationship, Don. I mean, Coach Creighton never said a word.
Mm.
He didn't need to high five him. There was no celebrate. They just looked at each other. That look of, "I'm so proud of you, son."
Powerful.
And I tell you, that day I wanted to go to Ottawa. I wanted to go play for Chris Creighton. That was the moment for me that changed it. So I committed, and my high school girlfriend committed too. We were all about it. And then that summer, Coach left. Based off his success, Coach Creighton took another job. I believe he's at Eastern Washington or a Division I school now. And what do you do at that point? I still went to Ottawa, and another coach came in and fell in love with him too, was inspired by the coaching staff, and had a great experience at Ottawa University. And still to this day, we do a lot with the university.
Isn't it amazing? What you really want to go be part of is a relationship.
Yeah.
You want to go join someone who will add into who you are and make you better at who you'll be.
Yeah. Everybody wants to be inspired, Don. You and I want to be inspired. That's why I read all your books. I want to be inspired. And I think that's the same in the professional world too.
Well, it's so great that you had that experience with Coach Creighton. And then there's a great business lesson here. You come in, but there's a leadership change.
Yep.
In today's age, it seems like if it's not perfect, if it's not what you thought, I'm going to enter the portal or I'm going to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
What kind of lessons did you learn about transition during that maybe you've used as an executive as you've had to transition people within your own companies?
Everybody wants a fairy tale story, and everybody wants a perfect script that Disney's going to pick up. That's just not life. I wasn't raised that way. Opportunity, you can say, is limited, but there was one thing that I knew is that there was no script. At the end of the day, you're thankful for what you have and be optimistic and opportunistic. Don, have you ever been in an interview? And I've been in 100 of them. We interview all Americans, and we interview people that have gone on. Connor Harris has played in the NFL, and he's the all-time leading tackler.
And he wears a great cowboy hat.
He does. But you know what my favorite interview is? I love when somebody says, "Yeah, I went to Auto University." Great, great. What'd you do there? What was I didn't see any stats. Well, I didn't have any. I was second string and third string quarterback. Oh, well, didn't you transfer, or where did you go next? Did you drop out? No, I stayed with the team. I was actually a 5th-year senior, made captain. To me, Don, those are the things that jump off a page about somebody. Like, so wait a minute, you didn't enter the transfer portal? You didn't blame the coaching staff? You didn't go home to mom and dad and say, "They don't appreciate me, they don't love me"? You stuck it out? You stayed a part of a team because you love the team? I mean, come on, Don. Like, I'm hiring those people the second they say that, because they have the commitment. They see the greater value in team over their own self awards. And nothing against Connor here, Don. He's a great project manager for us. So nothing against Connor.
Okay.
We love hiring athletes. The whole Mammoth culture, you'll see a ton of athletes. Some of them are extremely successful like Connor. Some of them were just a part of athletes, maybe even in high school. We love that competitive spirit.
There were 2 words that you said just so casually, but I wrote them down. You're looking for people who are optimistic and opportunistic.
Yeah.
You want those 2 things in every aspect, no matter where you're going to work or play from here on forward.
Yeah, that's right, Don. As the professional world changes, as our world changes, if you will, just like there's not a playbook, hey, you go to college, you guaranteed to play, you're guaranteed to graduate. The professional world's the same thing, Don. Look at what happened over the last 2 years. There was businesses that went bankrupt and shut their doors, and I feel bad for them. And there was other businesses that said, we got to adapt and we got to change and we got to do it now. Those businesses you found were actually thriving through this pandemic because they were willing to all of a sudden jump on Zoom calls. I didn't know what Zoom was 2 years ago, John. I don't know about you, but
Seldom.
now, if you look at my calendar, man, they're sporadic throughout the whole day, every day. And it's not because we can't go meet in person anymore, but people figured out, hey, I can get face to face with somebody and it's better than a phone call. You got to be willing to change, Don.
When we talk about those two traits, optimism and finding people who are opportunistic, what are ways someone could show you their optimism and they're willing to be opportunistic?
I can relate. I did coach for a ton of years. I'll relate it a little bit to that because I almost do that every day, not just while I'm on your podcast. You ask a kid who comes in as a receiver, you see how fast he is. And hey, he scored 60 touchdowns in high school. He comes in and you think, oh man, his hips are just a little bit different than what we saw on film. And hey, Derek just went down with the ACL. Hey, if this guy really worked on it, he could get on the field this year as a true freshman, as a safety, as a DB. He's got the size, he's got the grit. As coaches, you get into those meetings, and as a president of a university, you get into those meetings. Sometimes the kid just doesn't want to do it. No, I'm a receiver. I'm a receiver. I don't care if I don't get to play this year. I just want to stay being a receiver. And then you have the other meeting, and the kid goes, Coach, if you want me to play safety, I'm playing safety today. Let's do it. I want to get on the field. If we can win, and that's me playing safety, let's do it. The professional, it's the same thing, Don. In an interview, we have those interviews all the time. We have people come in and they say, hey, I want to be a project manager. And you can tell in the first 10 minutes, this guy's way more charisma than any of our project managers. See, now I get to pick fun at Connor if he's listening. And hey, have you ever thought about getting out in front of coaches and being on the business development side?
Nobody wants to be in business development because that always sounds intimidating.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, you're looking for those individuals that just light up.
And who say, hand up, I'm in.
I just want to be a part of Mammoth. And if that's where I can help today, you bet I want to be in business development. I'll do whatever you need me to do to be a part of this team. Those people get hired, Don, 100% of the time. The people that say, oh, I don't really want to get in sales. Like, that's not my personality. Okay, well, then I don't know if you're going to be a project manager for us either.
Right. That's a great example. It's a willingness to show the ability to jump in and do what's good for the team above what I perceive as good for me.
That's right. We're a company that just reminds ourselves we're trying to mine and cultivate the goodness in people every day. We all have our strengths and we all have our downside. I have way more, say, negatives to my own professional approach, I'm sure, but my team knows to concentrate on the positives. Preach that from Monday through Friday. Concentrate on what you do good, double down on that, and make the most of it.
And go out and recruit more people that fit that culture.
That's right.
That's beautiful. I had the unbelievable opportunity to be an entire day with your team, including into an evening celebration of the company's success.
Yeah.
It was January in Meriden, Kansas. That's the not good part of the opportunity. So I know how much family means to you. Talk to me about who was the greatest influence on that sporting journey, your early journey, and what do you remember about that investment in you?
It's my dad. Holy cow. Man, Don, you have a way of asking questions that just immediately start making me tear up, I think. If there's any other dads out there, have little kids, what does it mean just to play catch with your son? Go out and shoot baskets with him and believe in him. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
It just takes your dad and your mom to believe in you. And that's all it took for me, Don. I wanted to make my dad proud, whether that was in second grade at a flag football game, a high school, regional, sub-state championship game. I wanted to make my dad proud, man. Still to this day, I feel that burning in my soul still. He was my flag football coach. He was my basketball coach. And that's the time that he put in with me. He wasn't a professional coach. He worked at a manufacturing plant. But when he got home, he took his blue jeans and his boots off and we were playing ball. Mm. How powerful is it to be a parent?
Boy,
it's unbelievable.
Truth is, that's where the greatest leadership occurs, right there.
Yeah.
Too often we're equating it only with corporate success, but the truth is, we see a lot of amazing leadership if we look right at home, if it's done right.
Yeah.
You mentioned a couple of coaches. Was there a leadership lesson that a particular coach showed you, a story that you can share with us that you still hold on to today?
I tell you, I was a jack of all trades, right, Don? I tried playing all the sports. And I think that's important for kids to do to this day.
Totally agree.
I go back to football and playing at Auto University. I went and played college football thinking I was going to grow taller and get stronger. I had a lot of development left to do, and that just didn't happen. uh, I remember it was off season after my sophomore year, and I got selected as one of the off season captains. And I thought, man, I got no chance at playing. I knew that, and I think Coach Ross knew that too. So I went and asked him about it. He said, "Have you ever noticed like who you run around with and who your friends are?" I had to kind of step back, like, well, it's Jamal and Roy, and he goes, "The All Americans on our team. Why do you think you're in their circle or vice versa?" Never thought about that, coach. I don't know why. And he said, "You bring the best out in people, and you are a leader, whether you know it or not." He was one of the first guys, other than my dad, that told me that I was a leader. And I never threw a single pass for Coach Ross. Yet he singled me out as a leader and believed in me. And I've always thanked Coach for that. Him and I are still close to this day. And that moment will stick with me forever, Don.
That is powerful. Now, you are a leader. You're leading this rapidly growing company.
Yeah.
How do you go find the young Jake and pay it forward?
That's a great question. Mammoth is not what it is today, Don, and what it's going to be in 2 years from now because of me. It's been because of the same thing I did back in 2001 when I was hanging out with the All Americans on the team. Mammoth has All Americans on our team. We've had enough of us that we've been able to inspire other people to come here and be a part of what we're doing. And my goodness, Don, they're so talented, crazy talented. You know what my talent is, Don? I was really, really good at running a weed eater about 10 years ago.
Literally 10 years ago, you're running a weed eater. It's crazy.
Yeah, we have architects and civil engineers and these master designers and people with 25 years of construction background who have built some of the most prominent stadiums in North America. And everybody talks about what their training is and what their degrees are in and past projects. And I don't like being in those rooms sometimes, Don. I could pull a weed eater. I knew exactly where to put the choke and pull it just one time, and I could have that thing started up. So I went out and found more qualified, more talented people than I was, and I supported them, Don. I support them. I believe in them. The people that set up this booth here, hey, you do it. Install the best booth that you ever installed, Zoom booth. You let people run with their talent and run with their passion. It's unbelievable what they do.
You became captain there on the field, even though you weren't going to throw a pass, by surrounding yourself and making other people better. The way you become captain at Mammoth is, again, by surrounding yourself by others.
Yeah.
What a great lesson that is for us. Continue to surround yourself with all those great folks. We talked about Mammoth, and in 2008, you actually founded it as Kansas Turf, now as Mammoth Sports Construction. You've completed projects, 30 states. You've worked for the Detroit Lions. You've done football fields at Ohio State, Michigan State. These lessons that sports taught you about discipline, how have some of those been applied into this rapid growth? How have you brought some of what athletics taught you into the ability to expand so quickly?
All athletes have one thing in mind, the streamers and the trophies at the end of that year. That's what you're training for, right? Whether it's preseason or practices, you want to get to the point where it's at the end of the season and you're the last one standing. 98% of athletes, that's not where they end the season, no matter what sport they're in.
Right.
There's loss and there's difficulty and there's huge setbacks. What do athletes do? Bear down. And then a days later, a week later, you start working on the next year, right? You overcome those. The loss doesn't necessarily end your career. It doesn't kick you off the team. You grow from it. We lose probably on a daily basis or a weekly basis, and loss can come in different ways in business. It can be a lost client or lost interview where you're trying to win a job. You could lose a good employee to another good employer. Don, several years ago, I was sitting in a hot tub with my wife, and she asked me 4 or 5 times, "What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I was staring up in the sky and I said, "I think we have some bad eggs. I think we have some bad just people around us right now. I just feel it at my core." You've heard this with any team. There's a cancer in a team. The cancer is a hit phrase in sports. When you're going through the growth that we're going through, I mean, I think there was 1 month this year that we hired over 40 employees.
Mm.
I didn't know what to do. Some of these people were really important people that were making money for us every single day, maybe the best performers in our company. It had eaten at me so much. I decided that night, and I looked at Kais with tears in my eyes, and I said, "We got to get rid of them." I was looking around. I said, "We might lose this house. We might have to start over, but this is not what we were supposed to be. This is not how we were supposed to treat people and how we were supposed to make a difference." That was hard, Don. That was hard to go backwards and let people go that weren't aligned with our values of faith and family and bracing the small town team type mentality. I don't want to get this point missed. Some of those people were really good at what they were doing.
That's what made it hard. It's easy if they're both not in alignment and not doing a great job.
Yeah. I tell people it was my Terrell Owens moment. Like Terrell Owens, he was catching touchdowns for everybody and he kept getting cut.
And in a certain place, you got to look and say, maybe it's me.
Yeah. So we went backwards there for a little bit and we kind of restarted our engine and gracefully let those people go in a different direction and didn't know what direction that was going to spin us in. If you just look at our financials, Don, I've had bankers and whatnot, I've sitting across the table and they say, "Hey, what happened right here? What happened on the second quarter of this year?" Oh, that's when we got rid of Terrell Owens. That was a moment in the hot tub when we decided to focus on who we were and we were just going to embrace it. There's loss in business almost every day. What you find in successful businesses and businesses that are rapidly growing is they embrace the loss. Losses teach you something. Every day they teach us what we need to get better at or where we could grow. As long as you embrace loss and figure out what you need to be better at or do different, you become better and you move on and you grow. Mammoth and all of our different entities, we embrace the holy heck out of loss, man. Like that's where the opportunity for growth lies. And that was when we really launched into a whole nother echelon of a company. That's how recruiting is picked up too, is they recognize that we have a low tolerance for individuals that aren't team players.
And ultimately, people who want to thrive in that environment will flock to you.
Yeah, that's right.
You will become a target for them. It is amazing how once you really establish firmly what that culture is going to be, and everybody knows you're willing to sacrifice for the culture, you become a destination.
Yeah.
I love it. So there's this really cool story about how Mammoth directly impacted your own high school. Can you share the story about the Saints Field with us?
Yeah. So Don, how cool was it working with the Saints?
Oh yeah.
Have you ever been in the Mercedes Superdome?
Yeah.
It's one of the 7 wonders of the world, right? I mean, it's the biggest indoor building in North America still to this day.
Right.
And it was a playoff game, Cam Newton and Drew Brees. And they said, "Hey, whether we win or lose, we would be the lower seed next week. So we're not going to have another home game." They replace the field every year. And they needed the field removed within hours of the game being over because they had one of their biggest selling tickets of the year, their hottest ticket down there at the Mercedes Superdome, the big monster trucks that come in. They had to fill that stadium floor full of, I don't remember how many cubic tons of dirt it was to build all the jumps and everything.
For monster trucks.
Yeah. And they said, "Hey, we need the turf gone and we got to get going. Can you assemble a team and get this out of here?" And I called up all my buddies here in town. I was like, "Hey, you want an opportunity of a lifetime? Like, I'm going to go down to the Superdome and pull this field up." At that time, back then, we had limited experience under the big lights, if you will, on that type of stage. The day before we left to pull the field up, Don, I had heard from the operations guys down there. They said, "Hey, right now we're just going to have you put the rolls on a truck and just pull them outside until we figure out what we're going to do with this particular field." So I just asked the question. I said, "Well, what are you going to do with it?" And they said, "Well, we usually find a home for it. Somebody will end up buying it, or we've donated it before to other high schools in Louisiana." man, I know this super small, poor town that could really use a football field. And he said, well, what'd you have in mind? And I said, well, it's the one I coach at. It's up here in Kansas. It's Jeff West. And told him a little bit about the school and made a few promises like, hey, I promise we'll get that field. And then we wouldn't have to unload it and load it again for him. We could just put it on the semis. He said, well, I don't have enough semis down here. I said, I called every truck driver in Jefferson County here in Kansas. I said, hey, can you be down in Louisiana tomorrow at 5 o'clock in the evening? It was a parade of semis that we had down there. I think it was over 35 semi trucks.
Oh my God.
When we pulled in there, and it was about 9 o'clock at night, and they said, yeah, park your truck and your trailer down on the field. So we pulled through the tunnel, and it was unbelievable, Don. We're all looking out the windows, looking up. It was about 10-15% light in there. Just some random security lights were on. So you could only just barely see. So I guess we did what any 6 guys from Meriden, Kansas would do is we busted out a football. We immediately started playing football. And we're tossing and we're tackling each other. And we're so excited to be down there. And then all of a sudden, boom, 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 all the lights come on. And we're like, oh, we got caught. But while Bryce and I were down there pulling that field up and rolling it up, we posted it on social media. And we said, hey, everybody back home, we just wanted to announce that we're down here at the Saints and we're bringing this field back to Marion. We're going to install it at Jeff West. We worked our tails off for about 72 hours and we were able to bring the field home. You got to imagine the excitement that the whole town had.
When 35 trucks pull up bearing a NFL football field that will now be used by your players.
Yeah. And NFL teams, they don't inlay the logos usually. So it's just green grass and they paint everything. So it was fresh paint, still said Saints in the end zones when we rolled it out here at Jeff West. A really fun time for all of us, Don.
That's awesome. I love breaking out the football. That's the best part.
Fun stuff. But, our field at Jeff West was smaller. The D zones behind the end zones, we had quite a bit of turf left. We ended up taking that turf over to my wife's preschool and we installed it on the playground. When she's giving tours, she tells people all the time, like, hey, this is the only preschool in the United States that has an NFL playground.
That's awesome. In fact, I know how important foundationally for you personally and corporately, the idea of giving back is. You believe that as you grow and as good things happen, it is your responsibility to share that. And one of the elements of your give back at Mammoth is a foundation called the Woolly Farms Foundation. I've learned about it, but I want you to tell our listeners what you all do, how it came to be, because it's such an extraordinary story.
Yeah. Thanks for asking about it, Don. And it's the core of who we are. It goes back into our family story a little bit. My youngest brother has Down syndrome. We celebrate that. And I think anybody that has a member in their family that has Down syndrome, they usually say that with a smile because it is just an ultimate blessing. Young people that are out there and they don't know what to think of Down syndrome, they're probably scared. Early on, you go to Google and you say, oh man, they're going to have these issues and these problems. And we had a lot of unknown, right, Don? I mean, we were kind of scared. And one of the scariest things is their limited opportunity. Cameron could sit here and have a conversation with you, Don. He understands everything you're saying. You just might not be able to understand him.
Mm.
So they just have an issue articulating it, with the lack of muscles in their tongue. So early on, Don, we were just trying to figure out, man, how's Cameron going to have the right opportunities? And he's had a tremendous amount, even in our small town, of opportunities in high school. He's been part of the high school football team, part of the training staff. The inclusion here is second to none. But then what's next? Now that Cameron is turning 19, what's next after high school?
Right.
The average wait in our home state for an adult placement program for somebody with special needs was over 8 years. We had some parents come to us, their kids had special needs. They said, hey, we're looking at trying to start an adult service where kids and young adults can come and we just need to get them out of the house. It's depressing where they don't have anywhere to go. That's where Woolly Farms came from. Cameron's next step in life.
Mm.
Everybody needs a reason to get out of bed, Don. I mean, we all need somewhere to go. The core of the foundation is actually job placement.
Yes.
not just job shadowing, but job placement. I mean, where these guys are going out and earning a paycheck and contributing. That's what we wanted to create is we wanted to create a place for special needs adults to be able to come. We teach them life skills. And if they don't have a job that they're going out and going to, they work on a craft, for instance, pumpkins, growing pumpkins. And then in the fall festival, you sell those pumpkins and then they see that money come in. And we turn right around into our community and some of the surrounding communities and we give that money back. The Benishing family is somebody we've given to several times through the foundation. They just announced on Saturday that Tinley has her last chemo treatment this week. She's successfully made it through the last 2 years. So think of that fall festival. Hundreds of people show up to the fall festival. You have all these adults with special needs and they're creating all these crafts. And we sell thousands and thousands of dollars of pumpkins and ghost with painted eyeballs on it. And here's my brother Cameron and some of his friends taking this money. 48 hours later, we hand this big check on. I mean, this thing's 7 foot tall, 7 foot wide, and we give it right back into the community. That's our full circle. That's our full circle moment. So anybody that doesn't think that Cameron or anybody else special needs doesn't understand that, they're lying to themselves. I mean, Cameron feels it. He knows it. He's getting out of bed and he's going and he's building these crafts because he's going to sell them for money. And then he's going to give that money. He's going to help somebody in our community and make a difference. So it's been unbelievable, Don. The families we've been able to grow with and touch have moved us. It's created a whole new passion. And remember, we just did it for selfish reasons, Don. We were trying to give Cameron something to do.
But you know what? The beauty of it is you start with maybe what could be a selfish reason, but if you let it grow to its natural, the people it touches, what a great lesson that is for all of us.
I'd love to check back in with you. We have some amazing things going on. You know, some of the amazing people in Northeast Kansas, you're personal friends with some of them. Those people have been unbelievable in supporting and giving to Woolly Farms. And we think it's a message and we think it's a gap in our communities, not just in Northeast Kansas, Don. It's all over the country. So we think this is something that's a little bit contagious and it can grow to other communities across the country. And we're excited about that growth more than we are about our own sports business.
That's awesome. And that's a contagion we should all want to catch. Jake, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to have gotten to learn more about you, your story, and about Mammoth and some of the amazing things you're doing. But today, I want to just thank you for being with us as a corporate competitor.
Thank you, Don. So honored to be able to come on and be one of your guests. So humble for you to spend even 40 minutes with me. It means a ton. And I want to thank you too. You mentioned coming to Meriden. You helped change our team. The message that we heard loud and clear that came out of that we've changed as a company is athletes do inspire to get the medal at the end of the day and the confetti flying. You pointed that out to our leadership group. Say, hey, you have a whole room of athletes here and you guys are winning. How come you're not celebrating it? You taught us that, Don, and we've made some drastic changes on what we're doing for individual people and then teams that come together and win a project. We've started celebrating because athletes and winners in business want to celebrate. Everybody wants recognition, baby. Come on.
That's right. Celebration is a big part of the sport.
Yeah. So thank you, Don.
Wow. I have tears in my eyes over the Woolly Farms discussion. What a great time to learn from Jake. You know, there were two stories that he shared that really stood out. First, when he talked about being named an offseason captain of his college football team, even though he hadn't thrown a pass and wouldn't throw a pass for the coach who selected him as a captain. He went to the coach and asked, why did you choose me? And the coach pointed out who it was that he was spending time with. The All-Americans and the good players. Coach mentioned to him, they're choosing to be with you because you make other people better. That's why you're the captain. Three great lessons in that. First, if you're chosen as captain, don't hesitate to go ask why. Secondly, if you're the coach and you choose somebody as captain, tell them why. Letting them know rewards behavior. Finally, to be a leader, you don't have to be the one throwing the pass. You have to be the one making other people better. Jake Farrant was exactly that. And as a result, he got the C on his jersey. The second big lesson that really came to me was when he talked about that moment when he sat there with his wife and had the self-awareness to know that his company was not in the right place because they had several, he used the word cancerous employees, people that weren't great fits for the culture that they were trying to build. And he made a choice that he acknowledged put at risk his very home, but a choice that was to rid themselves of those people. And look what happened from there on. Bankers that look at their financials today, look at that moment and say, what happened here? Because so much great happened after. Stick to your culture, be true to it, reward those who are helping you arrive there, and your potential as a corporate competitor continues to rise. If you could share one habit, one thing you've done consistently that allowed you to separate yourself from your competitors, what would it be? In my 30-year career, 2,500 of the greatest athletes, coaches, and leaders answered that question for me.
This is Don Yeager, who did that article I was telling you about.
Don, Dave Sims with Coach K. How you doing?
Hey, Don. How you doing, my man? Great, sir.
What they gave to me is what I'm giving to you in my online course, Journey to Greatness. Through engaging storytelling and on-demand videos, you will learn the 16 habits that will jumpstart your personal growth. I will instruct you on how to apply these winning characteristics to your life through custom workbook exercises. We are slashing the price for our podcast listeners. Lifetime access to Journey to Greatness is normally $399, but for our podcast listeners, it will be $49 with the code podcast at checkout. Click the banner on corporatecompetitorpodcast.com to enroll. Thanks for listening to the show. I would be so grateful if you left us a rating and a review. We will be rolling out a new episode every Wednesday. To be the first to listen, subscribe to the podcast on our website, corporatecompetitorpodcast.com. Plus, as a thank you gift, you will receive a free chapter from one of my best-selling books on the habits of high-performing teams. Stay in touch by connecting with me on social media at Don Yeager, Yaeger, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Until next week, I appreciate you.